On BBC One now, the week's happenings in Albert Square with the EastEnders. Here on 2, we begin a week of special programmes to mark 50 years of television. This afternoon there are 4 programmes of special interest to children. In 20 minutes, an episode of E. Nesbit's classic story, The Railway Children. And then at 3 o'clock, Jonathan Miller's production of Alice in Wonderland, with a star-studded cast which includes Alan Bennett, John Gielgud, Malcolm Muggeridge and Peter Sellers. At 4:15, there's Crackerjack from 1964, introduced by Eamon Andrews. We start the afternoon now with a programme from 1977 when John Noakes from Blue Peter entered the toughest canoe race in Ireland. Go with Noakes.
Canoeist uses water like a fish. He wants the easiest and quickest way from start to finish, and usually that means the wettest. I was in training for a hair-raising Irish canoe race called the Liffey Descent. Fellow Yorkshireman Chris Hawksworth had agreed to be my partner.
It looked to be a little bit of panic there, Chris. Yeah. What do you think? Yeah, I think we'll have to do that again, John.
In the cold water on the Liffey, it'll be. We need the practice.
But first, he and canoe instructor Sam Cook wanted to make quite sure that I was capable of making the grade in time.
Yeah. The weirs are quite big, and John, so it's essential to know just how far you can go over in the canoe, stability-wise, before it actually capsizes.
Yeah.
In all, there are 10 weirs to shoot on the Liffey Descent. That's why the rules of the race insist paddlers must wear life jackets. Sam Cook's an instructor at an outdoor pursuit centre near Pateley Bridge. And he put me in with a group of teenagers for some basic groundwork.
You can swing your shoulders with the paddle, so you're pushing with the back muscles as well as your arm muscles. Hold your arms up. That's better. That's the action. Just go through it like that. Coming on.
I shouldn't look.
Yeah, try and use your shoulders a bit more.
It was important to get the feel of the paddles before we took to the water.
I want you to lean forwards, put your paddle in the water and pull it back so the boat is going to turn. One side only. Just paddle on the one side and make the whole boat go round in a circle. Try and concentrate on keeping your arms straight. Keeping your paddle down low on your boat, not up in the air here, and in front of your face.
Just as important as paddle work is a good sense of balance.
Pull the boats tight together, as tight as you can. There's a gap there. Right.
That's why Sam gave us this rather unusual exercise. If you can keep your balance doing this, keeping the canoe upright should be child's play.
Have you seen that James Bond film with the crocodiles? Whee!
1, 2. Get them in together, I'm going off the end! Oh!
John!
I'm going back! I've had enough! Hold tight! I joined Chris Hawksworth later in the week on the River Wharf, now feeling competent enough to face my first weir.
Come on then, John.
Down that end.
Over here.
I don't want to go over there, it's a bit steep, isn't it?
Right, about 6 foot away from the wall.
Round about there?
Yes.
OK, go!
And don't paddle when you get to the bottom. Whee! Right.
Oh, that was
Now
lovely.
paddle. OK.
How about that?
Well done. Great.
Are we doing that again, Chris?
Yes, but it's a long way round every time, isn't it?
Yeah.
This time, John, I think we'll start it at a... We'll go down at a sideways angle, because we'll have to do that with the double on the Liffey.
Sideways?
So if we go over near this corner...
Yeah?
And angle it sideways...
you're going to break the canoe. Are you in one piece? I can't see you.
Okay.
Hey!
Go on then.
It's really just a matter of self-confidence. All you can see of a weir as you approach it from upstream is a thin, straight line across the river. So you've got to trust your own ability to balance the canoe safely in every situation.
I'll tell you what.
Yeah?
How about going over backwards?
Hey?
Woo! Hooray!
The next time I'll do it standing on my head. You're joking.
Chris was satisfied that I was going to make out all right as a weir shooter, so we went back to Pateley Bridge for a fish and chip lunch.
Are those weirs on the Liffey going to be as high as that one?
Not quite.
Not quite. But there'll be a lot more water.
There'll be a lot more water. The slope tends to be somewhat different because the weir we're practicing on is a convex weir. It starts vertically and comes down and pans out. So it's rather easier. A lot of the others go the opposite way.
Yeah.
As well as the flat. And in configuration, they're a long V. So the key to the whole thing is to get the boat in the right position in the flat water above the weir. Then you don't paddle on the way down, and then we've just got to try and get out of the rough water at the bottom.
No doubt we'll be in it a couple of times, won't we?
I should think so, yeah.
The descent takes over 2 hours, with a lot of hard paddling between the weirs. That afternoon, Sam Cook and a friend paced us as we trained for endurance in the two-seater K2 we'd be using for the race.
Well, this is 2 miles, Chris, so far. How long's the Liffey?
17!
Is it?
Got a good bit more to go yet.
Oh. We're near the end.
I'd still got a lot to learn. It was rather like riding a tandem on water, but time was up. Next day, we were booked on the boat to Dublin, and Chris decided to risk it. One way or another, we were going down the Liffey. In a large hotel on the outskirts of Dublin, and the hotel garden is everyone's open-air workshop.
What's our number, Chris?
200.
Is it? How many in the race?
260.
It's about where we'll come in this race, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
After signing in, I had a word with one of the race organisers, Larry Ward, and asked him if there was a time limit on the race.
Well, there used to be in the beginning. In the beginning, it was, as I say, it was kind of a tour-come race. But there's a story, actually. There used to be, I think, what they call the open doubles class. It still is. But in one particular race, only 3 boats entered. And 2 of them broke up with the first weir.
Yeah.
So those couple in the doubles realised they had won, and it's a fine big trophy.
Yeah.
And they decided they would get as far as Leaslip, and they would stop for a jar, and they'd go to Lucan, and I think they had steak and chips. And sometime as the sun was setting, I think, they finally arrived down at Island Bridge and claimed their trophy. And according to the rules, they had to get it.
Yeah.
It's quite legal, since you can pick up your boat and run around anywhere. It's quite legal to extend that run to the finish if you're a fit man.
Yeah.
And you can actually carry your boat for the last mile. And I know one particular person, he actually one year damaged his boat so badly, it wasn't floating any longer. Himself and his partner carried the boat to the finish, and as long as you throw the boat into the water, now this is necessary, and get the boat, or at least more than half of the boat, if it's broken in pieces, and push it past the finishing line in the water, you can duly say, I have finished, and he actually collected a prize from that race.
No one had told me so far that you don't get a chance to practice on the Liffey weirs. This is because the only day when there's enough water to shoot them is the day of the race, when the river level is raised artificially. The best you can do beforehand is go and have a look at the weirs on foot.
So, we want to land about there.
What happens if we don't land there and we hit that rock?
Well, there'll be a horrible gorging sound, and we'll be swimming somewhere down over there.
Oh, can we get out on that field?
Oh, yes, easily.
The next weir was at Lucan, and we had to take this one sideways.
If we come down where we're stood, down at an angle.
How much is going to be coming down when we come down, though?
Well, about 6 inches of water, and there'll be about 3 foot in the bottom. Well, Wren's Nest, John. Everybody falls out here.
I'm not surprised, it looks awful. Where do we go in?
Well,
or over?
It's a V, although it doesn't look it from down here. We come down right on the tip of the V here.
Yeah.
And where this current of water's going is where it goes actually on the day, but there's a lot more of it.
All the extra water for the race comes from here, the control room of the Liffey hydroelectric scheme deep under the Wicklow Mountains. And it's the evening before the race that the taps are opened. A few miles downstream at the first dam on the river, a siren warns that 184 million gallons are on their way. The flood takes 17 hours to reach the bridge at Stratham where the race begins. And when Chris and I arrived there early next morning to look at the first weir, there was still no sign of it.
Well, to start with, there's this wall down the right here, this long wall.
Yeah.
If we capsize, we've got to remember to tuck our legs up to avoid wrapping them on the wall. And the top vertical bit creates a bad wave halfway up the weir.
But 2 hours later, the water level had risen by over a foot and was still rising.
Have we got everything?
Hope so.
Eh? Helmet,
Well,
paddle, boat.
If we haven't now, it's too late.
Okay.
The start is staggered into 5 different classes, but it's the K2s who go first because they should be the fastest. Chris suggested we hang back at the start and he knew what he was doing. That way we were able to pick our way through the logjam that formed on the approach to the first weir.
One, paddle! Paddle!
I couldn't help being a bit apprehensive. After all, this would be the first time we'd gone over a weir together. I'd have been even more worried if I could have seen what was happening to the first few boats.
How's it going to be on this one, I wonder? Everyone is new! Oh, we're upright! Hang on, we're right! I've got a paddle, I've got the tip one. Right, yep. Look at your paddle. I've got the boat.
I was glad to see Larry Ward in a rescue boat waiting to fish us out. I just hoped the boat wasn't so badly damaged that we'd have to drop out of the race.
Will this hold it?
I hope so, Only half a mile after the start, I ask you.
Right.
Go well past the patch.
Around there, down there.
Meanwhile, the next class, the open singles, were starting. Shooting the weir is much easier in a single, but with 125 in the class, the real problem was finding a space to do it.
Do you think we can catch anybody up? There's quite a few others struggling.
Yeah, there's 3 or 4 under the trees. You realise it's right by my backside, don't you?
Yeah.
It's obvious what did it. All my heavy weight.
Immediately downstream of Stratham, the Liffey plunges into a jungle of overhanging trees.
Right, let's get back in this race. Right.
Chris warned me that this could be every bit as dangerous as the weir.
What's this current flowing at the moment?
Oh, I would say about 3 miles an hour. I've just swallowed a fly. I just spit it out.
What happens if we collide with somebody down this narrow bit?
We collide with it. Well, we've got a good 4 or 5 miles an hour on this stretch, but of course, we look on the map and you find this river's a straight line. But when you get down here, you can never see more than 100 yards because it twists and twines so much. Right, come on, let's paddle, John, otherwise we're going right into these branches. Look at the big logs as well.
Look out.
Okay.
I'm not going to miss it. I got one right in the face just then. Slap bang.
Oh, it's not very pleasant, is it?
They don't actually clear this river before they're under, they?
And if you capsize here, there's no one to fish you out. It usually means a long swim to find a solid bank.
Straight here, David, straight here, come on. Inside that rock.
Halfway down the course, there's a lake formed by another hydroelectric dam. This means everyone has to hoik their canoe out of the water, run round the dam and relaunch.
What's some more? What up, Dan Allison?
They fell out. On your shoulders, is it
Shoulders like that.
Got any water in there?
What's that down a minute?
Thanks for it.
To my surprise, we reached the lake without falling in again, and Chris was setting a killing pace.
Now this Irish mob on our right here are going to try and beat us to the portage at the end of the lake. So we want to settle down to an easy rhythm as we go across the lake.
We knew we'd no chance of winning any prizes now, but for most people, just to complete the Liffey descent in one piece is challenge enough.
Actually, it's going to be a bit shallow.
In any case, when two Yorkshiremen decide to run a race, they run it to the bitter end.
Don't worry about the weed. Hang on. Right.
Where are we going? Through a jungle?
Below the portage, the weirs are more frequent and the current gets stronger.
Right.
Go, go, go.
I think we're going to fall in here.
I'm not. Right.
Right.
It's on this stretch that the experts usually pull away. Right up front were a British pair. They kept up an average speed of 8 miles an hour and reached the outskirts of Dublin in 2 hours, 5 minutes. At that same moment, 8 miles upstream, we'd reached the first weir we walked out on the day before.
Now we take it on the right-hand side where there's a deep plunge pool, and we put the bow of the boat in there. We go completely under, and it's relatively straightforward if we get the right place. Okay.
By gum, there was a grunting sound there, wasn't there?
Not everyone found the right place, but there were frogmen standing by in case of trouble. Meanwhile, we sped on to Lucan, the weir we had to take sideways.
We did it! We did it!
Another unorthodox way down Lucan is via the fish ladder, but only a few daredevils try it. Wren's Nest, the first V-shaped weir, always claims most victims. That's why it's the most popular spot with spectators, and they leave no doubt as to their sympathies. They only cheer when someone looks like falling in. By this time, Chris and I were getting confident.
Are we doing it right?
We're doing it right so far. Well, that's it. Okay, hey!
But this was the most dangerous moment of the whole race. For a few hectic seconds, I was trapped underwater. I couldn't get out of the boat because my spray deck had caught. I tugged again and it came free. Already the frogmen had noticed the delay. It was a strong reminder that my capsized training back in Pateley Bridge had been essential for a race of this kind. It looks fun, and it is fun, but only if you're aware of the dangers. The last weir was another V. Like Wren's Nest, it capsizes about half the canoes that get this far, so there's a small fleet of rescue boats at the ready. Even the best paddlers can take the wrong line here and come a cropper. So I could only rely on Chris's experience.
Right. You find the line.
Well, we hugged the left-hand bank to start with because of the tight bend. Then we'll slow down while we line ourselves up properly. And then we'll sprint over it in more or less a straight line.
Right. And I hope we do better than we did on the last one.
Yes.
Is this it now?
Yes, coming up to the lip.
Right.
Way!
Right-o!
Oh, that was a bit of a way.
Oh, we got through it.
After our tumble at Wren's Nest, this was really tremendous. We'd hit exactly the right line and kept on it. A mile further on was the finish, and nothing now to stop us completing the course. Some competitors were limping home, more in than out of the water, but we paddled up to the line in great style.
200.
We even crept up a couple of places in the last few yards.
346.
So in exactly 3 hours, 7 minutes, I completed my first, and perhaps last, Liffey descent.
How many times have we fallen in?
Hey?
How many times have we fallen in?
Twice.
What do you say, 2.5?
In 3 minutes, E. Nesbitt's Railway Children as seen in June 1968. First, more nostalgia with an old-fashioned interlude. Do you remember this one?